and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Perfect Project Management. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions first of all. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we're Bitrix24 Gold partners. So we're based here in New York and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help you to evaluate Bitrix, see if the system can manage your key requirements. So we can help you through that evaluation process. And if Bitrix is a good product fit for your needs, we can then set it up for you. So we can build out the Bitrix24 system so it is designed exactly how you need it to work. There are two editions to Bitrix, so there's the cloud and there is the self-hosted edition. If you are interested in the self-hosted system, then we can provide our hosting service for you. And we then provide training and ongoing support to ensure businesses get the most possible value out of the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so if you're coming to today's webinar to maybe learn more about the Bitrix24 system in general, then let's just go through some of the key topics of what Bitrix24 actually is. So essentially, Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess of 35 different tools and modules that you can use to help you to manage your business. And there are over 12 million customers now around the world that use the Bitrix24 system. And as I briefly just mentioned there, the system's available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud, and then we also have the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. So when we say self-hosted, it doesn't mean you have to host it on your on a local server. It simply means it's a private cloud instance of Bitrix. So you can host it on your own private cloud, or we can provide our hosting service for you. Okay, so just to kind of briefly mention as well about prices. So prices start from approximately $49 per month for a basic cloud system. And if you're interested in the self-hosted edition, then that starts at the Business 50 package, which is $3,590 in year one. Then in year two and ongoing annually, you will pay approximately 25% as a renewal fee for this system. So that's a subscription renewal. So you're paying around 25% as a renewal in year two and ongoing annually. Okay, so that is a brief look there at Bitrix24 as a whole. Today's webinar, it is perfect project management. So we're going to be focusing on the project management features and functionality within Bitrix24. So first of all, it's really important to understand why you should use Bitrix24 for your projects. First of all, we have project work groups, so you can have complete separation for every single project that you manage inside Bitrix24. And we'll see how we can keep all of the information within a project in a really simplified UI. So it's very easy to navigate inside the projects. We have task management as well. So really nice, the ability to be able to manage all of the tasks across lots of different projects, assign them to the correct person. And we'll then also see how we can use automation. So on tasks, we can set up automation rules, which are triggered based on different types of parameters. We have workload management tools as well, so we can use reports to actually analyze who has capacity to work on future projects, to work on tasks within the system. And then we have our Gantt chart and reporting views as well. So we'll take a look at all of these different elements within the Bitrix24 system. And we also have a feature here called external users. So an external user is essentially either a client or it could be a supplier, someone who's external to the organization, but you want to be able to collaborate with them. So you can invite that person into your Bitrix24 system, and then they can collaborate with you depending on what permissions you set up on your work group for that particular customer. Okay. Now, one thing just to mention around external users is that they are classed as a seat on the Bitrix24 system now. So if you're thinking of inviting your maybe your clients into projects, you do need to be cautious that they will be taking a seat on your Bitrix24 system. So say, for example, if you're on a Business 50 self-hosted edition of Bitrix, you have 50 seats in total. So that's internal and external now. Previously, external users weren't classed as a seat on Bitrix, but now they are. So that's something you've got to think about when you are planning to invite your external users into Bitrix. Okay, so let's now go into the Bitrix24 system and let's take a look at the functionality for our projects inside the Bitrix24 system. So I'll make sure to explain when we go through the features today, if there's anything where you need to have a specific tier of Bitrix24 license, I'll make sure we mention that in today's webinar. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is create a new project inside the Bitrix24 system. So the area we go to do that is in the workgroup section here. So if I click on workgroup there, that will open up our project management page here. So I can see here all of the projects that I am available to be using inside my Bitrix system. So I can click straight into those projects through the project page here. And you've got a filtering tool so you can drill down into any of these projects as well. So it's very easy to navigate to view the projects that you are associated with inside the Bitrix24 system. And the information you see here as well, this can be customized as well. So I'm an admin on the Bitrix system here, so I can customize here this UI, and I can select what information I would like to show on the front end. So if I wanted to maybe show maybe the last modification time, then I could set that to show on there. Or maybe if you want to create tags on your project, so maybe depending on what types of departments are working on the project, you might want to tag those on here. You can then manage that information and show that information. So let's say if I click on tags, I can see some tags here available associated to those projects. So you can turn on and turn off different features there within the project view. Okay, so let's now say I want to create a new project. Let's go through and see how we can manage the creation of the project inside the system. Okay, so first of all, we need to select what type of workgroup or project we want to set up. So the key difference here is on a project, you have a start and an end date. Okay, so on there, you need to have those time parameters, and any tasks which are then managed within that project, those tasks must have a deadline that falls before the end date of the project. So you can't have a task that surpasses the end date of the project. So that's something really important to think about. You might want to set up a work group for each of your departments, as an example, inside the business. So a work group doesn't need to have a start or an end date. So very much like a department inside an organization. So you might have a work group for every department where you can then collaborate, plan your meeting, manage your calls, and share documents, all within a closed area. So it's specifically for that particular department inside the Bitrix system. So that's the key difference there between project and work group. So let's say, for example, we want to set up a project. So I can click on there. This then opens up the project title. So let's give this project a title. Okay, so I can give that a title. You can also add a description as well if you like to give more context to the project. So when people are being invited into the project, they have more information to be able to understand what they're being invited into. Okay, and then we can also add a theme. So this is essentially the background for when we open up the project page. So let's now add that background there. And you can choose an icon as well for the icon on the page there, as you can see on the left-hand side. Okay, so now we're opening up the extended parameters here. So this is where we can start to add a lot more information that's going to go inside the project. So first of all, we've got project dates. So I've just mentioned there, really, really important that you add this information accurately. So inside here, let's add the project start and end dates. Okay, so we're going to say 31st of December. So any tasks now that are managed inside the project, they have to be on a deadline that does not surpass the 31st of December. Okay, so we can also add a subject, so we can use this for filtering later on. And then we can choose the features here. Okay, so this is a really nice area within the Bitrix24 system. So essentially, what you can do here is you can turn on and turn off different functionality for your project. And this is unique to each individual project that you manage inside Bitrix. So let's say, for example, I know I need to manage tasks in this particular project. There's going to be a lot of tasks that need to be managed throughout the life cycle of the project. So I'm going to turn on the task feature so I can manage my tasks. But also I want to be able to communicate with the rest of the project team. So we're going to turn on the chat feature. And I also want to store some documents that we can share. So I'm turning on that drive area as well. So you have complete control here to decide actually what functionality I want within my project. If you don't want it to be kind of overcomplicated, you can keep it simple. I've just turned on 3 specific features there. Now, you can always come back into here, so you don't need to kind of panic at the start to think, am I adding the correct features for the project? You can always come back here later on if you want to turn something on. Maybe I want to actually turn off the chat feature in maybe halfway through the project. I could come back in here and do that. Okay. And then we've got the external user feature. So that's what I mentioned earlier on. If you want to invite your clients, your suppliers, any third party essentially into the project, then we need to turn on that feature there. Okay, we can then choose the privacy levels. So there's different options here. So public, private, and hidden. So if it's public, it's going to be accessible within the workgroup and project list here, and anyone essentially can enter the project. If it's private, essentially you only get access by invitation only, and you can request access. And if it's hidden, it will not even show here in the project list. So you can't even request access to join. You will only be able to gain access by invitation only from a team member or project manager that's already inside the project. Okay, and now let's take a look at the different layers of ownership within the project. So first of all, we have the project owner. So essentially, this is the project manager, the person who is going to be running and overseeing the project inside the system. We then have our moderators. So this is essentially like your middle layer of management. Okay, so let's add several moderators, and then we can add the rest of the team who are going to be working on the project. Okay, so there we can add all of our users. So we have like essentially 3 layers of ownership inside here. And now once we've added the ownership for the project, that's going to create the project inside the system. So here what we can see the features that we have set up. So I've got the task area here, I've got my drive area, and I've also got the chat feature so I can then collaborate with the rest of the project team here. And if we just go into the About Project area, you can see those members who are being invited into the project. And what we can do on every single project, we can import from a CSV. So if you've got maybe tasks that are external, we could import that information into the project. And when we're setting up the project, it's also important to remember the roles and permissions for the project. So you might only want certain people to be able to do certain actions inside the project based on that layer of ownership. So I mentioned about the project owner, the moderators, and then the rest of the users. We can set up access permissions on every single project. So you really do have very granular control inside the project here. So let's say, for example, permission to create tasks inside the project. I'm going to say only the owner and the assistant moderators are able to add new tasks and allocate those inside the project. So you can start to see how you can go very granular with the information you store inside the project. If you want to be able to control who has access to that information, who can add additional information, such as tasks, such as documents in the drive, you can set those access rights. Okay, so that's a look at an individual project that we have just set up, but now let's take a look at a project that's currently being worked on in the Bitrix24 system. Okay. Okay, so if we go into this project that you can see here, this is a project that is live within the Bitrix24 system. And what we can see inside here, first of all, across the top, we can see the different features that are available on this project. So you can see this one's got a lot more feature functionality within this project. So we've got the feed, chat, drive, calendar, and list. But let's start inside tasks. That's a really kind of fundamental area for managing any project within the Bitrix system. Okay, so what we can see here, first of all, are tasks. Okay, so within the project, you can manage all of your tasks. I've shown already how you can import. So if we go into the list view here, what you can do is you can import tasks from a CSV. So if you want to upload that task information into Bitrix, you can easily do that using the CSV files. You can also manually create tasks. All you do is click on the create button there, and then you can start to input the information about the task. You can also inside here create checklists as well and allocate those to a specific person. So you can go very granular within the project task area. Okay, and then what we can do down here is we can add the deadline for the tasks. And within here as well, what we can do is maybe you want to have this as a subtask, so we can have parent and child tasks within the system. So inside here, I can say this task is a subtask and then select the parent task inside our project. So you can go very granular. So if you want parent and then child tasks, we have the capability here to be able to do that. Okay, now let's say, for example, we work with a lot of accountancy organizations, for example, so they have very structured tasks that they have to complete every single month. And it could be in your organization, you have that type of task where it is a very repetitive type of task. So rather than having to input the information and all of the task details and the checklists every single time, what we can do is, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, I could save this as a template. So once I've set this task up once with all of the information, with all of the checklist items that need to be completed, I could save this as the template, and then I can select that template from the system here, and then I can simply save that into the project. So that's a nice workaround to save you having to manually enter in the information over and over again. And another option as well is we can repeat the task. So actually using automations here, we might say we're going to repeat this task every first day of the month on a Monday, for example. I want this to be repeated for 12 months, for example. So inside here, you can have that task automatically recreated over a certain time parameter. So those are some really, really useful options that you can use to be able to have that automated task functionality inside the system. And that will save so much time for a lot of people within the Bitrix24 project management tool. Okay, so that is a look at how we can set up a task. So manually using the automation feature, but also using the task template feature. And then within the project, we can see all of those tasks that are being worked on. And there's lots of different ways we can view the information. And this is a really nice feature within Bitrix. So it could be within your project management team. People really like to manage their tasks in different ways. And we have that capability here within Bitrix. Because first of all, we have this list view. So I can see all the tasks, I can see the status, who's responsible, the deadline here. And again, I can customize the UI here for my task list view. And I can select what information I want to show here on my tasks. So you're able to really add as much or as little information in this list view as you like. And within any of these tasks here, all you have to do is click on the task and it will open up the task page. Okay, so inside here now I can see all of the information about this task. I can see all the items and checklists that need to still be actioned within the page here. And then we can also communicate directly on the task page as well. So in here, you've got all of your communication logs, and then I can collaborate with colleagues and manage all of my communications directly on the task page. Okay, so I can then save that comment inside the task. And that allows you to have very focused communications directly inside every single task, rather than having to have endless email threads, endless chats, endless meetings. Being able to manage all of those communications within the task page just means you can have very focused communications. It's very easy to quickly catch up on what the latest comms has been on that particular task. And another feature within the task management tool is the ability to track time as well. So if you want to be able to manage and record time on tasks, you have the capability here to be able to do that. Okay, so that's a look at tasks within the list view here. Now, again, we've got different icons here. So if anything that's overdue, we can filter down into that information. If anyone leaves a comment on a task, I'll be able to see those latest comments on here. So you can use these filtering counters to really drill down into the most critical elements of your tasks on a project. Okay, and so moving on to look at a few of the other views within our project here. So I've got a Kanban view here. So this is essentially the stages that we are progressing our tasks through within the project. So as I move these through here, that will update for everyone on that project. So you've got your Kanban view here. And these stages, they're completely customizable for every single project that you run inside your Bitrix24 system. Okay, we also have the deadline view. This is probably my favorite view. I think this is a really useful way to get a very high level analysis of your tasks within Bitrix. So when you add deadlines to your tasks, I can then use this view here to easily analyze what tasks need to be prioritized within the project. So I can see these two tasks are overdue. I can see what's due today and what's due this week. So this gives you that very quick top level view of what needs to be focused on within the project. And then I can obviously, like I've shown, you can click into there and start to drill down into that task on the system. There's also a planner view. Okay, so this is your own personal, almost like your own personalized Kanban view within the project. So these stages that you create in your planner view, they are your own personal stages. So when you create those stages, it doesn't impact anyone else's view on the project. Everyone can create their own stages for managing their tasks on the project. But we've also got our calendar view. So a really nice way to be able to view here. I can see all the deadlines of the tasks in the system in which you can click through here. So you can start to see how all of these different views, they are very different, but it means really everyone within the project is able to use whichever style and preference they like for managing tasks within the project. And then we also have a Gantt chart view here. So this is that very high level overview. And the red lines here indicate the deadline. So I can see what's overdue, what's getting close to hitting the deadline. So this is a really nice top level view as well to be able to see all of this information. And as I mentioned, in every single view here, you've got the filtering tool. So you can drill down into this information. Maybe I want to drill down based on who's responsible for those different tasks. So you can easily navigate. If you've got hundreds of tasks within a year, using that filtering tool is going to be a really powerful area for you to do and manage your tasks. Okay, so that is a look at task management within a project. Now what we can do is let's take a look at some of the other features within the project as well, because there's some really powerful tools here that you're able to take advantage of as you're managing projects inside Bitrix. So first of all, we have a feed section. So essentially the feed, this is almost like an intranet board for the project. So as you're maybe posting messages, that can be done through the feed section. So rather than having to send out emails to people, we can use the feed to manage all of this information. Okay, so let's say, for example, if I wanted to just send out a new message to the whole of the team. Okay, so let's update everyone on the status of the project. Okay, so there is a message. We're going to post this out to everyone in the project. And then within here, so on that feed, on that new post, everyone can add their own likes and comments, so people can comment back on those. So again, almost very similar to the task area where you can add comments on a task. You can add your own messages within the overall project here. Okay. And it's not just a message there. What you might want to do, you might want to send out an announcement or an appreciation, which is a different type of post on the project. So let's say office is closed. Okay, so let's now send out that announcement. And a key difference, say, with an announcement here is you can mark the user to force that they have read that message. So if I come into here, for example, you can see here, so I can see both of those posts here. So I'm logged in here as an external user. So it looks a very different UI, and we'll go into this in more detail shortly. But you can see that project status post, so that's come through to me here. And then I can see the announcement here. So you can see very different. I need to mark that I have read that message. And then I can post back, for example. And there we go. So it's very useful for having very focused communications through the system. And that's now fed back into here. We've also got the chat feature. So there you can see me posting out a message on the newsfeed board, but you can also do instant chats. So I can send out a message here on the instant chat. You can also do voice calls and video calls. So through here, you can manage all of that communication through instant chats on the project. There's also a drive area. So inside here, what we can do, essentially, really nice feature, is a document repository. So all of the documents and information connected with a project, you can manage and store all of that information directly inside the project page here. And we can connect external applications to feed documents into here, and also use the Bitrix document tool. So you can then collaborate and edit those documents live within the Bitrix24 system. With any documents here as well, you can set permissions. Okay, so you can control, like I mentioned at the start when we were creating a project, you can control here who is able to access those documents, who's able to upload new documents into the system. You have complete control over that. Okay, we've also got a project calendar. It's really useful if you want to set up meetings, maybe weekly meetings to catch up on the project. You can manage that within the calendar area here. And then we also have lists. So lists are essentially tables of information that you can store about a project. So for example, here, we've got some expenses. So inside here, I can manage all of the expenses connected to the project. So if I wanted to add a new expense, this opens up a form essentially that I need to complete. And that can then be used as what we call a business process in the back end of the system. So this could go through an approval process. So once I've added that new expense, it can go to the owner of the project to either approve or reject that expense inside the system. So if I filter through here, for example, I might just want to look at all of those that have been rejected, for example, and I can drill down into that data. Okay, so that is a look at an individual project that we're managing inside Bitrix24. But if we go into the tasks and projects area, this is essentially where all of that project information, it syncs up at a very high level. So inside here now, in the tasks and projects area, I'm just seeing all of the tasks across all of the projects that I am working on. So I can see, so for example, I can see all the comments that I need to continue to look at through my tasks. So you can filter through that, see all of the information, for example. So this is a really good way to be able to, rather than having to go into each individual project, all of the task information, it will roll up in this view here. So you can, again, view all of those pieces of information about the tasks in lots of different formats. So it could be maybe the list view is easier for you to use, and I can then filter down through every project. So I can drill down into that data. And then you also get an even higher overview of the project here in the project page. So inside here, essentially, you can see a performance score. Okay, so what this is doing is it's analyzing all of the tasks inside the project, and it's giving a score based on what those tasks are either still in progress, but they're within deadline, so they're being continued to work on. But if the task has actually past the deadline, but it's still live and ongoing, so it's overdue, that will start to reduce the performance score. So anything closer to 0 means you're falling behind. Those tasks are behind schedule, and essentially then the whole project is behind schedule. So you can use this performance score to really analyze how well or how bad a project is progressing. And it's the same for your individual staff members as well. So I've got this, we have this supervising view. So inside here, I can look at all of my team, for example. So I can see all of their performance scores based on their tasks that they are responsible for across those different projects. And so, for example, I might just want to see everyone who's got less than 50% as a performance score. So I can see straight away at this very high level who I need to help to get back on track. Okay, so that is a look at the project management tools. So we've seen there how we can manage our project groups. So we've seen the employees, the Kanban and the automation features we'll have a look at in a second. The collaboration stream and the chat. So we've seen how we can communicate really well with the rest of our colleagues on the project. And then we've got the calendar management and document sharing views. So some really very different types of features within the project, but all very powerful features, which, as we showed at the start, you can turn on and turn off those different features. So actually, if you feel maybe it's a bit overcomplicating the project, you could just turn off those features and actually just have them available as and when you need inside the project. Okay, so let's just see if there are any questions. So if you have any questions, please add them to LinkedIn or our Zoom channel question box. So let's see if we have any questions right now. Okay, so can extranet users add time to tasks? So yes, absolutely. So if you want to be able to record time on a task, as long as you've got permission, so we're giving the external user permission to be able to view tasks in the system, then yes, you'll be able to record time. And then they can also communicate with you on the project and that task. So if you want to be able to let that person as an external user collaborate with you, let them add comments, you can do that as well. Okay, is it possible to create a task from an email? So that's a really good question. And yes, you can do. So if we come into our webmail feature in the system, so this is more, I would say, looking at CRM, but within the system, essentially, what you can do is you can connect your mailboxes into the Bitrix24 system. So all of your emails can sync into Bitrix. And then from there, what we can do is I can select those emails. So these are all of the email communications. And then I could actually create a task directly from that email. So it can embed the email into the task. And then I can assign that task out and select what project I want to assign it to. So it's a really useful feature that, so yes, you can create a task from an email by connecting the mailbox. Okay. Okay, so that is a look so far at how we can manually create a project, manually create tasks inside the system. But Bitrix has a huge number of automations within the automation engine of the system, which means we can actually start to streamline some of these processes, save time and reduce human inaccuracy, essentially, through the system. So let's take a look at some of the ways we can automate processes inside the system. So first of all, for example, if we come into our feed section, rather than having to go through that whole manual process to set up a project, what we could do is create a workflow to create a project inside Bitrix. So for example, here, let's select the new project workflow tool. So inside here, we have a very simplified form. So it's very easy to complete this form. So I can set up our project. So let's call this project 2024. Then I'm just going to select the users. So first of all, the manager and then the designer. So we've got some roles on here. And then I want to select the end date for the project. So let's go to the 31st of March. Okay, so we've got that information. And this form here, by the way, this is completely customizable. So you can see here we've got certain fields that need to be inputted. Some of these are mandatory, some of them aren't. So again, you can customize that to your specific needs. What's really useful here is I'm showing here the different types of projects that I can select from. Okay, so what we can do within the back end of this business process tool is we can add conditions. And based on those conditions, that's going to trigger a specific workflow in the background. So based on, say, if I select project A, there's going to be specific tasks that are then created in the project. But if I select project B, a different selection of tasks will then be added into the project. So if you have different types of projects, maybe for the different services you offer, all of those could then be added into here, and you can then select the appropriate one. And Bitrix is going to do all of that hard work of creating and managing the tasks, bringing the relevant people into the project. So it can save so much time for you inside the system. So let's select that project B type for the project. So first of all, what we need to do is just do a final approval. So actually, we can add an approval matrix into here before the project's created. Okay, so we've now authorized that project. So let's go back into our workgroup section. And let's just take that filter off. And then we'll see that project 2024 has been added into the workgroup section. And we can then see the tasks that have been created for that particular project. So it's brought in specific people, it's brought in and created the specific tasks that need to be completed. So rather than having to manually do this, we can use business processes to manage this for you and save so much time and also reduce human inaccuracy. You could be creating the wrong types of tasks inside the project. So let Bitrix manage that and streamline the process for you. So if we just go into the workflow directory, I just wanted to show you kind of the back end of how that was set up. So this is where we can see all of our workflows. Now, if you want to be able to use this feature, you do need to have at least a professional cloud license. So if you're on a basic or a standard edition, you're not going to have access to this feature. So if this is something you're interested in, then get in contact with our team here at Interface and we can look to upgrade you to the professional cloud, and then we can start to use some of these more advanced features that are available inside the system. Okay, so we can see here, this is the workflow. So we requested information about the project. So we added in information about the title, etc. And then we had a selection here. So project A or project B. So those are the types that we had mentioned. So we selected one. So you can see here underneath project B, we've got the specific tasks that are going to be added. Whereas project A, a completely different set of tasks. It's going down a different workflow. So you can customize this. So on the right-hand side here, these are all the different action blocks available on the project. So you can come into here. You could add as many kind of approvals or different conditions into here. If you wanted to add more branches to this, you can see you'll make it as advanced as you like. Now, this can look quite daunting, but that's where our team can come in. We're specialists at building out these types of workflows using the business process designer tool. So if you are thinking about using this workflow tool to automate your processes, then please do get in contact and we can discuss the options available to build out these workflows in your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so let's look at the business process designer tool. But also another area where we can manage automations is actually within the task view itself. So if we go into the Kanban view, I showed you earlier on within the BizTech project, we saw the stages that we have for the Kanban view of tasks. Now, what you can do inside here is, again, you can set up automated processes. So if you wanted to create actions when the task goes through the different stages of the Kanban, then we could set those up. For example, it could be inside here adding a message, it could be changing who's responsible. That's a really common use case. So as you progress to a certain stage, it could be changing, you move it to a certain other user who's going to be responsible at that point for the task. So there's lots of different types of automations that we can set up. But what we can also do is we can set up triggers, which are at the top here. So a trigger will automatically move what stage the task is at based on that particular type of trigger. So a really good example is, for example, here, where we have an overdue trigger. So if the task has not been completed by the task deadline, it is overdue. So what we're going to do here then is automatically move the task to the urgent stage. Okay, so it's automatically moving to the urgent stage based on that trigger. And then within the urgent stage here, you can then see some automations that we have set up. So as soon as it moves here to urgent, we're going to be changing who is responsible for the task. So it's going to go to a more senior project manager. And we're also going to be notifying everyone within the project that this task needs to be prioritized. So you can start to see how we can use a mixture of triggers and automation rules to ensure your tasks are being managed correctly inside the project. So this is a really powerful area. Again, you need to have at least a professional cloud edition of Bitrix to access this feature. These are more advanced features. You'll get a lot more out of the Bitrix system by using this functionality. So if this is of interest to you, do get in contact with ourselves and we can discuss the options available for upgrading. Okay, so that is a look at automations. And we've already talked about this quite a lot actually in today's webinar, but then let's just talk about the extranet. So with the extranet system, we're able to invite our third parties essentially, so our clients, it could be our suppliers, we can invite them into a particular project. Now, you can see here, this is an extranet user's view of their Bitrix system. They have very limited access, okay? So the permissions are very controlled. They don't have access to the CRM system, any of your internal processes or modules. All they will have access to is the projects that you have invited them into. So for example, here we can see the two projects that this extranet user is able to access. But then within that project, you can then decide what functionality you're able to give them. So we looked at earlier on how you can set permissions on your project. So within here, we've got permissions, so the user is able to see, manage tasks. They can go into these tasks. They can provide information on the task itself. So you're able to give them quite a lot of control on this project, though you can see they can't create a task inside here. So you can see how that permission works quite granularly, but you can then control exactly what that user is able to do inside the project here. And let's say if we go into the drive area, they have more limited access on documents as well. So this is the project we were looking at earlier on, where we had lots of documents. We have restricted the access, so they're only able to access one file and one folder inside here. So again, using permissions, it really does keep you in control. You don't need to worry that they're going to be able to access everything inside the system. We can set very good control levels inside the system here. And then we've also got the feed, so they could then collaborate. And if you wanted them to be able to post a message, okay, so they could post that message out. So they can collaborate directly through the system. So it's a really useful feature. The only thing to again, just to point out, I mentioned just at the start of today's webinar, an external user is classed as a seat on the system now. So say, for example, if you're on a professional cloud license, that's 100 users on the system. Both internal and external will class and eat up those seats on the system. So previously you could have unlimited extranet users. It didn't affect the number of seats within the Bitrix system. Now it does. Okay, so that's something you really do need to think about if you're going to have a lot of external users on your Bitrix system. And with this here, again, when they log into the system, if you're going to use a self-hosted edition of Bitrix24, that's one of the key benefits of a self-hosted system. You can have a branded login portal where the user logs in to the system. So that could be really useful for you if you're going to have a lot of clients who are going to be coming into the system. Having a branded corporate portal is going to look really professional. So that's something we can do with a self-hosted system. We can also set up more advanced automation. So you might want to trigger an automation from an external source, for example. Then we have that capability with the self-hosted system. And we can also set up more advanced customizations with the self-hosted system. If we just come back into our Bitrix system here, this is a self-hosted edition. We can edit pages and edit sections. So essentially you get the ability here to completely customize the UI and the look of the system. So that could be very important for you as an organization. If it is, then the self-hosted edition of Bitrix is really what you want to be looking at. And we can then also create bespoke modules and custom dashboards inside the system. Okay, so that is the end of today's Perfect Project Management webinar. Thank you very much for joining today. Here you can see a selection of our up-and-coming webinars. So we're here every other Tuesday for our webinars, and we also do have additional training sessions available as well. So if you are interested in seeing more functionality within Bitrix, then we do have a Bitrix24 sign training special on Thursday, November the 23rd. So that's with my colleagues, Andy and Michael. So do register for those. You can go to interface.com/webinar. So you can register for all of those and these additional special bespoke training sessions as well, which are proving incredibly popular. So if you're interested in learning more about the Bitrix24 sign feature, where you can do electronic signatures through Bitrix24, make sure to register for that training session on Thursday, the 23rd of November. Okay, but that's the end of today's webinar. So in summary, we've seen how we can manage projects within the Bitrix24 system using the workgroup feature. And within that project, you can really customize exactly how much functionality you want to have, whether it's just turning on a few different features or having every functionality within the project. So we've seen how we can manage tasks, how we can collaborate using the feed and the live chats, so we can instant message, do video and voice calls with our team. And then we've seen how we can do automations as well. So we could use the workflow tool to streamline the creation of projects and use those automation features on tasks to ensure we're being able to manage all of our tasks in the most effective ways using automation rules and triggers. And then we've seen how we can do quite high-level reporting through the Bitrix24 system as well. Okay, so that is the end of today's Perfect Project Management webinar. Thank you very much for joining today. This will be going on to our YouTube channel, so if you want to see a recording of this or a refresh it, please do head to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions in the meantime, before our next webinar, you can contact us, sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to assist you. Okay.